Hey, Gagan. Thanks so much for joining me here today.
Hi, Megan. Thanks so much for having me.
Definitely. So last time we met, I actually told you that I had never tried Sprig before.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's very disappointing.
I know. I'm sorry. So I tried it, and the food was great. It was delivered actually in about 10 minutes. But for me, Sprig seems more like a good to have, cool to have, but not necessarily a need to have, for me at least. So tell me about what real pain point you're trying to solve with Sprig.
Yeah. So, look, I think one of the things that's cool about being an internet entrepreneur is you have the opportunity to take an industry that's kind of been stuck for a couple of years, or in the case of the food industry, maybe about 5 decades, and just kind of shake it up. Right? And so why Sprig is important is because what we're doing is we're making eating well convenient. We're making it simple for people to eat well so they can eat great food on a regular basis. And today that's very difficult. If you think about it, the food industry has basically forced everyone between 2 choices: quality food that tastes great, that's a ton of work, or convenient food that's very, very cheap and bad for you.
Got it. And this isn't your first rodeo. So you co-founded the education startup Udemy.
That's right.
You were a growth advisor at Lyft. So tell me about some of the learnings you've applied from those 2 startups to Sprig today.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think what's interesting about Udemy, Lyft, and Sprig, the common thread between all of them is they all started with a very specific mission. So Udemy's mission was to democratize online education, or democratize education using the internet. Lyft's mission was to make transportation universally accessible, and Sprig's to make food universally accessible. But the lesson of all 3 of those startups is they all started with a completely different idea of how they were going to achieve that mission. And to me, the thing that makes a successful entrepreneur is eliminating your ego when you have an idea and being willing to sort of bob and weave from where you start to where your final destination is and what product and service actually meets the market need.
Okay, and something I was thinking about earlier today. So the market right now is pretty stable, but what will happen to Sprig, let's say if there's another economic downturn? How do you prepare for something like that?
Sure. I mean, so honestly, as an entrepreneur, the way I look at it is if I build a great business, and I build a business that's meeting a consumer need, then it kind of doesn't matter a whole lot what the economic world is like, right? So at the end of the day, my focus and our focus at Sprig is to make sure that people all over the world have access to better quality food than what the food industry is providing to them today. And if we can deliver on that, I think there will be plenty of capital for us.
But even if people can't afford it, I mean, meals are about $15 each plus a delivery fee. I mean, I'm just kind of curious how you see that all panning out.
Yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, meals are on average $14 fully landed to a customer. So
okay. Including delivery fee.
Including the delivery fee, yes. But actually, that's not where Sprig is going to be in 5 or 10 years, and that's not the mission of Sprig, right? First of all, it's worthwhile to note that $14 is much more affordable than going to restaurants. So if you order from Sprig today, and you order, say, a pork shoulder with a side of braised kale and some roasted carrots, that dish at Nopa, with the same ingredients, with roughly the same cooking techniques, will cost you $25. At Sprig, it costs you $14. So we are making a dramatic impact on the cost of the same type of food that you can get elsewhere, and that's because of the economies of scale that Sprig has.
And you talk a lot about wanting to make healthy food accessible for everyone. So what is your plan for helping healthy food become accessible for low-income people and those in poverty?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's something I struggle with, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a very hard challenge to solve. How do you provide this massive community of people with food that is both great for you and affordable? And our approach at Sprig, rather than, I think some companies say like, look, we're gonna charge $15, and then we're gonna take 25 cents and buy a can of tuna for someone in need, right? Or like do something token bullshit like that to make ourselves feel better about ourselves. Sprig actually takes the opposite approach. We're not donating money today. What we want to do is make the market for organic food, to make organic food prices go down dramatically, to shift the farming in this country from a few percentage points of our total farming in this country is organic. And the rest of it's all, pesticide, hormone, GMO-laden, frankly, crap, right? And if we can continue to build a market for better quality food, we expect the prices to go down dramatically over time. And that's how we're serving the community. And it might take a decade or two, honestly, for that to happen, but I hope it has a lot more impact.
Okay, so basically you're saying that maybe down the road we might see Sprig meals going for $5 each. Is that too far-fetched? Is that a possibility?
I think it's totally a possibility. At this point, our focus is still figuring out how to provide customers in our markets with the best possible experience. But the long-term vision is that as you continue to convert more and more people from eating food that is actually just as bad for you as most of the other things that you think are bad, like fried food or oily food, honestly, conventional ingredients are just as bad for you. And so if we can get more and more people to start to understand and appreciate the value of this, then I think over time the price will continue to go down.
Definitely. And let's talk numbers here for a second. So a few months ago, Sprig hit 500,000 orders delivered. What is that number today?
Yeah, it's a lot more than that.
Okay, 1 million?
We aren't sharing the exact number, but I think one of the things that's great about Sprig is there was already a massive amount of latent demand for Sprig or a service like it when we launched. And so when we launched, sort of immediately, very different from Udemy, for example, which took a long time to build that market. At Sprig, as soon as we launched, people were ordering in droves. And today, a meaningful percentage of the San Francisco population uses Sprig on a regular basis. They use this once a week, which is crazy.
Okay, and these are repeat customers. What percentage of these orders are coming from repeat customers?
Yeah, the vast majority, somewhere between 80 and 90% on a given day of our customers are repeat customers.
Okay, it's pretty high. Yeah, because I think maybe last year it was around 60%. So you've seen quite an uptick.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, and that's just a matter of when you're new, of course, a large percentage of your users are going to be new.
Right.
And you're growing. And so over time, those users have now become regular, habitual orderers of Sprig. They order Sprig. A large percentage of our user base orders Sprig 3 to 5 times a week. We basically replaced, home cooking for them.
And there are obviously a lot of startups in the on-demand space. There are those that just focus on food, like Munchery, Spoon Rocket, Caviar, and then there's Postmates, which delivers anything from food to prescriptions at Walgreens, and then, of course, there's Uber Eats. Which one of those companies or services that I just mentioned scares you the most?
So, look, as someone who's been in a lot of competitive markets, right? At Udemy, there was probably like 36 education companies that came about and got funded during the lifetime of that business, and still more today. Lyft obviously faced stiff competition from everyone from Halo and Sidecar to Uber. And at Sprig, we're obviously all the companies you mentioned. I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to that. What I pay more attention to is the existing market. So our biggest competitor, right, are companies like McDonald's and Burger King, where people on an average basis are ordering from McDonald's and Burger King and eating food from them. We're taking a lot more share from them than we are share from, any other company that you named. And so that's why I view our biggest competitor is like, let's kill fast food.
Okay, so maybe down the road, can you see all of these companies teaming up and consolidating?
Yeah.
If you really want to beat the enemy of fast food?
I would love a world in which that was possible. One of the things that I've always done at Udemy and at Lyft is go and try to reach, across the aisle, if you will, and meet with other companies in the space. I found it a little bit more difficult in the food space than I expected. Most of the entrepreneurs seem to be very competitive. I think that's just kind of been built in. But I hope that over time we band together and we focus on building the market for better quality food for everyone in this world, because ultimately that matters a lot more than the enterprise value of any individual company.
And we've spoken a bit about your involvement at Lyft, and I know that both of the Lyft co-founders, John Zimmer and Logan Green, are advisors to Sprig.
They are.
And Lyft hasn't moved into food delivery. I think you might see where I'm going with this. One day is Lyft just going to buy Sprig so that it can compete with Uber Eats?
Oh wow, I didn't see it going all the way
Oh, really?
there. So I mean, honestly, we're interested in building the future of food, and I think that's a massive opportunity. In a lot of ways, it might be a bigger opportunity than transportation.
Okay, so you're saying that it's not a far-fetched idea.
No, I'm saying it is a far-fetched idea, and I'm saying that most likely Sprig will be more impactful on the world than the on-demand transportation companies if we can get it right. And so why not focus all of my attention on building the largest food business in the world than worrying about an exit opportunity?
Right. I hear you, but what I'm also hearing
Okay.
is that your mission with Sprig is to really address making healthy eating accessible and deliver that. So I could just see Lyft wanting to get into that market and maybe looking into a company like Sprig.
Yeah, that would be great. You know what I'll say about this, about all the people entering the industry right now, whether Lyft eventually does it or not, I don't know. We haven't talked about it. But, you know, ultimately, my perspective is it would be a shame if the only innovation in food was that it arrived faster. Okay? So what Sprig's mission and what makes Sprig unique from all the companies you're talking about is Sprig's mission is to completely dismantle the existing food industry and eliminate the power and control that big food and big agro have over the communication between what you think you're eating and what you're actually eating, right? And if Lyft enters the market, or if Uber continues to actually build on it, or if Munchery, all of these companies out there, the only thing I hope that they focus on is actually making real meaningful impact on the industry they are affecting. And frankly, that's what I learned from the Lyft founders to begin with. That's what they did in the taxi industry. They completely changed the game. And that's what I want to do in food. Nice.
And about a month ago, you decided to start switching your delivery drivers over from 1099 contractors to W-2 employees.
Yep.
How is that process going?
It's going great. I think it's a difficult transition. There's a lot of sort of paperwork involved in the transition. But I think I was surprised and impressed by the response from the community, right?
The community of drivers?
Multiple communities. So I'd say the community of fellow entrepreneurs who are struggling with the same situation and trying to figure out what to do. The community of our customers who are happy that we are making more of an investment in training and development of our servers. And then, of course, our server base as well. I wouldn't say that for them this is a big change. To be honest, I think that's a misunderstanding in the media, that somehow they are being mistreated as independent contractors. I think that's false. And if you talk to them, which I do on a regular basis, that's kind of not the sentiment. But I think that what they are excited about is we're going to provide them with options in Sprig. So we're going to provide them with the ability to share in the upside if Sprig becomes a successful company. And also we're going to provide them with training and development so they can build their careers through and get their start at Sprig. And I think that is what is exciting about the change.
And I've heard a lot that process can be. Well, actually, once you implement that, it can be rather expensive for the company. Is this going to affect your path to profitability?
I think that at Sprig, because what we serve is food, ultimately Sprig is a food company. We make most of our money off of selling food to customers. And if you look at our cost structure, delivery is only a portion of that. So unlike a company that relies entirely and makes all of its money off of delivery or delivering people, Sprig is in a good position in this case because the percentage impact that the change has on our overall cost structure is actually fairly minimal relative to the other companies. And so, I think ultimately Sprig is much more about making food more accessible and available to everyone, and the cost structure of a few percentage points on the employees is kind of not making a big difference.
Okay, and last thing, because we've actually run out of time here, that just flew right by. So Sprig is live in 3 places right now: San Francisco, Chicago, Palo Alto.
That's right.
What's next and when?
World domination.
Well, when?
Look, we will slowly and methodically enter every city that we can possibly enter over the course of the next 5 years. That's the goal. The goal is to make food, great food, universally accessible, and that means entering every market. So when will we enter the next market? I think you'll hear about it pretty soon.
Okay.
But we will just continue to roll out to more and more markets as we grow the business.
All right, great. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Megan.